Infosys. He was the director of Infosys, one of the largest companies of IT. He started with government about six years ago to digitalize the citizenship of India, something called Aadhaar. And now we got over 1 billion people who got the Aadhaar card. The amazing thing about this database is that now financial services can be delivered through this card. By identifying the customer, they've been able to use this, to use the mobile phone to create all sorts of benefits. So first the CRM. So I can really see the benefit of first knowing your customer through e-knowledge. And for example, just to finish off, recently there was a telephone service launch called Jio, J-I-O. And Jio has used something called eKYC to actually sell SIM cards, right, in the millions. So India is now, especially with the currency change which is coming through, they're hoping to digitalize the country within 6 months instead of 6 years. So what digitalization can do for the customer and the supplier, i.e. the councils, is to speed up the change. And if an India, which has very limited resources in terms of broadband and so on, can do it, I think definitely in Europe there's great opportunity to reduce costs and improve services through digitalization.
Thanks.
Local authority, we're talking about taxpayers, first of all. And one universal service that everybody gets is rubbish collection.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And any council that screws up that, well, there's been plenty of examples because my own borough has now gone towards wheelie bin. We've had a summer of discontent because posh people, central Ealing and bits don't like wheelie bins in their front gardens. And they get lots of, there's a fly tipping increase across London. Okay, that's a massive issue right now.
Sure.
And then we have, my particular council, can't speak for other councils, we have an online form asking people to, it's like a 6-page form. Okay. Now, in a way, the contrast you get, there are a number of apps you've got, like Fictional Streak is one, and I think we're about to link up another one. Smartphone technology is seen to get reported. Take a picture, put it on the app, report it. And if you go to our website at the moment, it's been updated, but you've got to know the location of a flighty book. It's a dumped mattress or a fridge. But if it's by a park, which is what I've had to experience, it's like, oh, what's the address? I haven't got the address, it just says a park. So technology in a way has got to catch up, but the thing is you've got to make sure, it's part of that journey, you've got to make sure your residents with you as well. You don't make it hard for them.
Sure. Sure.
I know what you're saying in terms of India in particular, country of millions, almost a billion, it's probably over a billion now. Depends where you start from, I guess, really. But
sure.
These are sophisticated, a bit more sophisticated customer relationship we have in local authorities here. So you can't instantly transform it.
No, you can't. Yeah, I understand.
Yes. We have planning, take planning for example.
Sure.
Most councils now planning. You'll see them on lampposts now. You won't get the neighbour notifications anymore. Mm-hmm. Well, breaks loose, isn't it? Well, I never saw that on the lamppost next to me, back next to the extension. But you say it's online. You've got to do certain things statutorily, but the point is.
So I think the key from your point, what you're saying, Hitesh, is that don't just talk about the data capture, but try to also make it simpler for the citizen.
Yeah, this was one of the driving forces behind Bradford's journey. Recycling, refuse collection and recycling is something that has happened over the last 10 years. And what they were doing in a practical sense before they went on this journey was, they didn't know the addresses of their residents. They were turning to the BT telephone book in order to schedule the delivery of the refuse vans. They had a fleet, and every new housing was being built. And there were complaints coming through from the new housing that was being built. This information was just not in the data that the refuse and recycling centre had. So, and the only way that they could overcome this manual task of updating houses through the BT book, which was the only reliable source of data that they had, was to integrate with the central database. So, and that is how they overcome the issue of complaints from recycling. There was a time where we just had one bin. Now we've got 3 and a waste recycling tub. And the collections for these, they don't all stay the same either. They depending on the schedule and workloads, they change frequently. It could be 6 months that the delivery dates change. These are all issues that have potential to detrimentally affect the reputation. It's why one of the reasons why I went through the journey.
That I want to focus our attention on.
Before we go on, I think just one thing on the early part.
Yeah.
A lot of that journey stuff,
Yeah.
unless a mistake, I'm a council hunter.
Yeah.
We're there already in terms of that journey. The issue is about how we do it and who we take with us. The question of you've got to do this and pay for it. That's 10 years ago in one sense. I've not researched the market like you would have in that sense. I'll give you an example. I had an email from Age UK and Ealing last week. They got a problem with application for blue badges. All our systems gone online now, but they visit people's homes. So I get the issue actually. How do you get this? How do you get these applications? Because when we get to people's houses, they're not online. They can't do the system. I mean, the other end of that is the way it's processed is taking too long as well, but that's a different department. In one sense, that's another complaint as well. But the fact that what it's saying is that our stakeholders know that this is the way we're going, but it's making sure that actually how do we make it right for them.
You were really engaged with this next session. What we're going to do, philosophical question is why on earth we even bring up the topic of philosophical approaches in the digital transformation. And if you'll allow me just to go through these, sorry, I'm going to plow through these sections.
I think I just also want to just quickly check with others as well, whether there are any views that they have on what they think about the driving and restraining process. And I think you do make a valid point, and I think I might have said this earlier as well, because the GDS did a pilot with the Government Digital Service, the Government Digital Service did a pilot with Warwick. What the blue badge, on the blue badge scheme itself, and the blue badge, which takes anywhere between 8 to 12 weeks for a person to get a blue badge, actually now in Warwick, they've through this pilot, they've got it down to 20 minutes. Yeah, so
You need to email me.
That's great, but what Hitesh was making the point was that might be true.
yes,
But if they go to this house, they haven't got an online, they've got no online access. So either the customer hasn't got it, or the people doing the agents haven't got it.
exactly.
Then you're a bit up a gum tree, aren't you, really?
Sure. And I think that is where the point about the need to make sure that there is digital inclusion and there is digital engagement across the board, i.e. we are thinking about the people who might be in the situation like that, Hitesh, that you described in terms of Age UK, right? It's about making sure that, so maybe that there is something there in terms of assisted digital support capability.
Well,
could
Yeah, just quickly on that. I mean, HK doesn't matter who it is actually, because they're key players.
Yes.
Whatever sector you are, I mean, there'll be different organisations. They have relationships with local authorities, and you want them on board because they stand between the council and its customers as well.
Sure.
I mean, come down to individual relationships, to be fair,
True.
in educate, even they like me, but they may not like other comments, all the
Sure.
time. That's the point.
I hear what you're saying. I think there is a big takeaway for us from that.
Just 3 things, from an organization perspective, because I'm listening from Elm's global point of view. First thing about research, right? I think publishing the papers would be a good way to promote Elm's global.
Where on that journey?
Sure. Including. The other thing I would suggest is really by just listening to it afresh, right, is to look at some way of mapping existing, because I think it's such an obvious thing that unless the existing flow, here we got Hitesh with Edge UK saying it takes too long because there's no broadband at home, right? It's a really obvious point, but if we could provide ourselves global a mapping process, right, and throw up the gaps, we are not trying to sell any particular software, but we're saying that a lot of organizations haven't got maps, and therefore if you don't have a map, how do you know that a lot of the time that is wasted between customer delivery?
Sure.
So that could throw up a good way to sell AMS Global as an organization.
We could use the critical pathway
Yes,
idea.
exactly.
We're coming to that, but then that means there's mapping out particular issues. So we would align issues to that critical pathway and say, look, we know that from our experience that the critical path, you need to address this issue at that point in time. We'll come on to that. I think.
Sorry, just one final thing.
Yeah, sure.
Is we need to become a very niche player, I think. This is just my opinion after the 1 hour I've listened to you. For example, if we've got a problem with blue badges, which Hitesh has kindly pointed out, right, and obviously it's confidential, right, we should be able to produce a systematic solution to that and say, this is best practice, but we can show you how to go from where you are, i.e. map to your process, to where you want to get to. So not everything is just about supplying hardware and software. A lot of it is about change management, as you said, right? People are resigned to the existing system because of the fear of change, right? Whereas if we could draw a bridge between best practice, right? But how do we get to that best practice from where we are, right? A lot of people have tried and failed, and they're scared. If we, as AMS Global, could just take blue badges as our totem pole for 2017, and say we can make your blue badges much more efficient to half an hour. Let us show you how. Would you like to find out?
We could do that. We could perhaps maybe have.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point you make, Harish, and thanks for all those three observations.
Yes, excellent point.
And
Just to nip it slightly, sorry. I mean,
Sure,
just,
sure.
You are right, you are right in that sense, but just the blue badge, because the other drivers around that, because there are two aspects to that. One is new applications,
Yeah.
and then there's re-application.
Right,
renewals.
right.
And then you've got the assessments, because somebody might have had a blue badge for a temporary period,
Sure.
3 years, because the driver with the DWP, Department of Work and Pensions, is they're going to reassess everybody every so often.
Right.
That you still deserve that blue badge. And I think that's where the hold up. I say the hold up, and there's that process in time to make sure somebody can walk 50 yards to a car, or they can't walk 50 yards to a car or something. And that's another factor in that, because yes, you can process an application quite simply, but there's obviously the other stages involved in that as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. No, I hear that. Sorry, Nick, did you?
No.
Okay, shall we just plow through the so only in that sense it kind of impacts on the customers through the environment that we are in. So which is the traditional 4 factors, the best factors, which is political, economic, sociological and technological. So I think you can see the sociological and technological factors are shaping the environment.
Yeah, and also the other thing is the Amazon effect, isn't it? So
Yeah, sure.
I can, if I want something, I can tap a few keys tomorrow morning, or either later tonight, the thing I asked for, wanted, will arrive. And councils don't go anywhere near to competing with that yet. That's what, and people, the expectation, the environment is that people begin to expect that level of service. And the question is, and Amazon is not a council. Amazon's got endless resources, whereas councils have not got endless resources. And the temptation, of course, is to try and run before you can walk, and then fall flat on your face. There's the danger.
Sure.
Well, yeah, I suppose so. But I mean, there are plenty of examples for us it's about expectation.
Yes.
I think if you go Amazon online, you know, unless you, they change all the time to be fair, but you know, to be next day delivery or be 5 day delivery.
Yeah.
But people got that train, but somehow when they contact local authority to get a flight removed, they want it done in 5 minutes.
Yeah,
You've got to
general information, digital transmission, local government information, or you are specific to a target council or government department meetings and no minutes and decisions or archive or it's kind of what you target resources to be changing to digital. So,
really important, coming on to module 2, which about managing the resources and planning, is that which looks at the specific issues and how, in a practical, we can deal with that. So the first, I guess we were just setting the scene for module 1 about understanding CSS tasks. If we understand what we need to do, then we can do the planning, the blueprint planning, and allocating work for the work streams that must be set to make sure that the digital delivery, objective is what you just drop it into a Gantt chart. You outline your people and your monthly schedule, and that's how you deliver it.
so basically you focus on the process and the methodology, not a specific project.
Okay, I think to answer your point about the specific project, this research was born out of work done at Bradford City Council, looking at its transformational journey and how it achieved the digital transformation. So what we are sharing really is work that has been done following that particular piece of research. And we are trying to kind of really reflect and look at what is the landscape today looking like, because this research was done 2013, 2014, and since then we have also been on a journey to date, and where we are at the moment is sort of really looking at what are councils actually doing, because as a company we are not about advocating a particular technology, or we are not advocating a particular supplier. We are a technology and supplier agnostic. So what we are saying is that this is an independent perspective on the bringing.
The digitalize of government sort of documents or records started 10, 15 years ago.
Yes,
So,
yes.
a massive scanning process.
Yes.
Every department, every council, local authorities, and all installed, bought
Correct.
big scanner, scan everything. Yeah.
Yes.
And then so that was finished 10 or 15 years ago.
Correct.
But the key is, when you got that sort of digital holdings or digital
Yes, data.
data there,
Yes,
database
yes,
there.
yes.
So it's not really being exploited or
Yes,
organized
yes.
or being delivered, like you said.
Absolutely.
And then because at that time I was involved with this scanning project,
Right.
and then technology at that time still limited to certain sort of ways. It can only scan the contents.
Correct.
Can only give you the metadata.
I
to
think
be
that's
searchable.
a very valid point
Yeah,
to
be
make.
searchable. Then the majority of data inside is not searchable. And,
True.
It's just being sitting there, like a transformed from paper-based data into the digital database, still sitting there, not
Correct.
to be used. You even cannot find it. If you're looking at all those local government, internet,
Yes.
and then, searching machine is really rubbish. So you want to search for that.
People will, organize those sort of trainings, and then you were just talking about generally methodologies, philosophies, and then the way you organize training or whatever. I don't think it's very much demand right now.
That's very useful.
Or
alternatively say, and then as consortium, how do you maximize, optimize your e-resources, digital resources to deliver from the consortium point of view? That's another demand there.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Searching for something, it come up with an endless list, and then nothing is right.
Relevant.
You know, so that's a general project. You know, the issue now is for everybody is how to deliver the digital.
Okay, so we are coming to that point just after coffee.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
I mean, how does that feature allow new entrants into the market?
can I just kind of come to that? I think the government digital service, the government has been very keen to kind of really disrupt the marketplace. And what the government has been doing is through its digital strategy, particularly in terms of local government procurement, what it has done is it has enabled a system called, of procurement called GCloud. And through the GCloud, what it is looking to do is to bring more diverse range of providers, smaller providers, SMEs, into the fold. I think what the cultural similarities, I think this point is referring to, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, is that it's about whether there is whether there is a shared whether there is a shared ambition in terms of what each partner is looking to get out from any particular intervention. So I think we are seeing, I can't remember the figures from the top of my head, but I think what started as something like 20 suppliers on GCloud now has got more than 2,000 suppliers on it. So so it's really quite fascinating, and I think the spend is something like 2.5 billion. Yeah.
Well, we did like those private council are committed to again, they benefits were delivered through them. So it's in Collins about
It means in terms of where they're coming from.
Well, you just casting our mind back to earlier, you were talking about, and just echoing what you were saying about, what Andrew was saying about bringing services back into the council.
Yeah.
That is sort of, and also the idea that earlier on you talked about actually one of the critical success factors which were disappearing was the failure things.
Yeah.
Was actually using heavy reliance on external contractors.
Yeah.
And rather than actually building the skills in the council or in the organisation, council or otherwise. Is that happening, do you think? Do you think that's happening? People are investing in that training you talked about quite a lot, about are people and retaining those skills in the organisation rather than constantly having to buy in the expertise?
I think certainly what I have kind of noticed and what I have found from my travels and my discussions with people is that because the way technology has evolved, what that has really meant is that it is not as expensive as it used to be to try and manage technology and technology resources from a management point of view. Because earlier, within councils you had an IT department was possibly, very top heavy. And nowadays, because most of the roles and functions have sort of disappeared, because I think what you can do by sort of moving to the cloud, and again, where there's only indication that 2% of the public sector is on the cloud. And there is a big drive towards now moving to the cloud. So to answer your question, I think it's happening, but it's happening slowly.
Yeah, I agree with you that, you know, although everything's been, you know, contract out, outsourced, and seems okay at one stage, then gradually you will find your expertise within the local government will be dry out. Then when you come to move to the next stage, then you will find that you cannot set the, you know, like set the roadmap or business requirement. You don't have that expertise anymore. And that will weaken your position when you to renew the contract or to get a new project. You cannot set up clear objectives. Then before, like you said, your partner, I don't think those business companies, they come into this contract is purely for charity or get you a good result. They purely looking at the commercial benefits, and then that will give you a dilemma. Then a lot of government ICT project failed is because the internal expertise for those project managers, they don't have enough knowledge, and then they cannot manage or set up the scope very clear at the beginning. That's why it's getting delay, and then investment getting larger, and then eventually fail.
Yeah, that's a constant, repeated event, isn't it? And people are forced to bring in McKinsey and to make analysis, and then McKinsey spends a lot of money telling people what they probably ought to have known already. How does this help people get away from that? Does it help you get away from that?
No, I think the only way I think that can be reversed, and there is some recognition. I mean, so I can think about one initiative, say for example, which was highlighted at the Society of IT Management conference this year, last month. Now most councils maintain, all councils maintain in the country websites, and most of the website content, in whether it's in terms of benefits or entitlements and all this sort of thing, it is really common, it is standardized. But there will be certain variation in terms of what is happening within each region, or each locality might have a separate thing. But in terms of how do you claim stuff or what happens, and so wherever there is content on the web which is consistent throughout, can there be kind of one mechanism to update it, and there is one kind of centralized process somewhere, you know, to do it with the flexibility that you know, the local content gets then updated. So we have, I can't remember the name of the organization. It is born out of Leeds, I think, if I'm not mistaken. It's a partnership between a number of 3 or 4 local authorities. They've set up a group, and they've also kind of set up an arm's length company to precisely do this, to come together and say, let's bring together, look at everything that is standard, you know, whether there are changes that are happening because of new legislation or new entitlements, rather than every council having to do it. If that is you know, done centrally in one place, then all our sites get updated at the same time, and it's a more efficient and a more cost-effective way of doing it, rather than if there are 500 councils, 500 kind of site administrators dealing with it. There's only 3 or 4 people who are pulling all this information together centrally and disseminating it to everyone else. So that is a good example where I think there is scope both for you know, freeing up capacity, so that rather than people just becoming you know, administrators or people who keep updating information, they can really become knowledge workers. I think that is where I think the change is, because I think digital transformation is also about change in mindset. It's not about anything else. And I think there is some kind of early indication, and certainly councils are also now beginning to realize that, you know, they have to move from the low-hanging fruit of digital transformation in terms of, you know, getting the efficiency gains and all this from the transactional services, moving to relationship services, and see, you know, how you know, you engage with the users. But I think there's a long way to go yet.
Well, that's going to vary, isn't it?
It is.
I think, I can't speak for your group, but
It is going to vary, yeah. It is going to vary.
Is that your experience in England, that effectively that all that knowledge that used to reside in the offices has been hollowed out and let's say that it's gone somewhere else?
it will depend from department to department, to be perfectly honest. I mean, you know, the reduction in staff is one thing. It depends what, you know, which staff they've got. You know, there was a constant battle between frontline and backroom staff, because you know, you take the front line, but get rid of your backroom, but then you realise you need those people back. You know, so, you know, and so it will vary.
I think this is where the Bradford research really focuses on and highlights the need for having super users and flow walking. The term that somebody used in Bradford was flow walking. And how flow walking?
Floor walking.
Flow walking.
Basically like a bank. And the service desk will become smaller, even disappeared. And then the staff will carry the handheld device like an iPad or tablet, then just walking on the floor to help customer individually. So that's the way it goes. And even we try to push that one out and give people an iPad, give them a Wi-Fi, give them a 4G SIM card, whatever. But you find that people still treat, well, by habit, whatever, they still retreat to, even there's a very small desk, they still behind the desk. Public still like to go to the desk to ask the staff.
Yeah.
They don't want to talk to people just standing nearby them. So that's kind of like you said, you have to change the mindset.
Yeah.
And then it's like say customer and service provider relationship still have a long way to go to really kind of go to that state. Yeah.
That's possibly a generational thing though as well, isn't it? Maybe,
Yeah, sure.
Maybe millennials may well be happy to do that, but people in their 60s and 70s will think of bonkers.
Yeah, well, the thing is, take an example. I mean, a lot of councils have service centres, customer service centres, big Hackney,
Branches that you got.
Bexley,
but you know, if you've got a housing problem, you know, because you're overcrowded or someone's ill, whatever it is, you actually just want to talk to somebody. So correct. You know.
True.
You don't want to press the button.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, people says, no, I can't get my.
But you do, well, in fact, what Greenwich has done both those things. So you've got these centres,
Yeah.
Centre, Greenwich, Woolwich, Shore. You go in there, and actually what you do is a mixture of the two. There's a screen first. You have to sort of specify your issue, and then you get to speak to someone. That's the sort of halfway house, I suppose, isn't it? Whether that's efficient, I don't know.
I think it's very interesting with the supermarkets, for example. And my own example. First, I was very offended by not being served by a till operator, especially if it's a child girl or whatever, and just smiling and bring my ego. But later on, as the queues told me, I went for self-service. So I think, according to Darwin, do you want to be delayed or do you want to get service quickly? And most human beings will change for their own benefit, and therefore, which we've been hearing all along today about benefit. Human beings are driven by benefit. What's in it for me? Why should I take the pain of serving myself? It is, you get served quicker. And just relax. If you get stuck.
Listen, when Morris is an actor, isn't so good.
That's why you provide. You have to have a reliable, easy to use system. Yeah. And then you go there, you always be beeping to say, okay, call assistance. Then red lights flashing. You feel embarrassed. And so and then unidentified item on the trolley or whatever. So it's really making you squeeze. Yeah.
Sure. But on the model itself, the 3x4 grid or 4x3 grid,
Right.
I mean, what do people feel? I mean, is that a good way of being able to look at how the resources need to be allocated at each phase of the transformation journey across technology, people, and process?
It would be if you knew what you're talking about, yes. I wouldn't know, Andrew had some numbers in there, but I wouldn't know how to assign those numbers. And I think it's interesting to note that the amount spent in training and informing and consulting people is not enough. That seems that's a useful thing to learn, isn't it? Or it seems obvious really. If it's
I think there's another thing. There is a different London context when you talk about local government as well, because I think the turnover of staff in London councils is very different compared to outside London.
Sure.
You know, councils outside London tend to be the biggest employer. I mean, you're on the fringes, but you know, this in the central boroughs, you're going to have a much more turn. There'll be long-standing employees. You rely upon temps, you know, as well.
But you have that effect in councils, which is difficult. This is a bigger, broader issue, but it feeds back into this, which is that if you have critical members of staff who know everything, and they leave, you're in trouble. Whereas the part of the process here is actually trapping that knowledge, isn't it? In fact, trapping and retaining the knowledge, you don't retain the person, because people leave for all sorts of reasons. You know, they leave for retirement or illness or all sorts of things, but if they go away with a lot of the knowledge which should be in the organisation, you're in trouble, or potentially in trouble. And it happens all the time, not just in council, but it happens in all organisations.
Sure.
And I guess this whole process needs to track that, doesn't it?
The next section we're going to move on to is about, it touches on a commonly heard word, which is systematography. So I won't spoil it there, but when you implement a digital service at the outset, the people can be very engaged and enthusiastic. However, a high turnover of staff, or if a key member of staff leaves, without there being the proper processes in place to capture that organisational knowledge to share it, means that 2 years down the line, the features that are available will not be utilised. In fact, people will be looking at that software, that digital service, and be criticising it and saying, well, why am I spending all that money?
On and so forth. But I think it's very important for us as individuals within the company and for the company as a whole to recognize that, you know, we not only have to talk the talk, but actually be able to walk the walk. So I think, personally for me, I think why I am kind of more engaged with this whole thing is for two reasons. One thing is I find that there are enormous opportunities in terms of digital engagement, and commercially there are opportunities. There are opportunities to create and to add value. That's one reason. And the other reason, particularly also, I think as somebody who uses digital technology. I mean, I don't know everything about digital, but I know the bits that I use. But I am digitally challenged, even though I continue to use digital platforms and digital delivery. So I think there is an element of inclusion and an element of a barrier for me digitally. So I think I want to engage with this subject personally. In terms of inclusion. I mean, this is only one form of possibly exclusion that I'm encountering. There might be so many other forms of exclusion, or people might feel digitally challenged for a number of reasons. And it might not just be to do with screen reading or interoperability issues. So I think I am, while the work that we have produced is looking outwards and looking at what works and what is best practice, but I am also thinking about this constantly. How can I apply this to create and add value out of this? in terms of the company, and B, how can I use this to overcome my own issues which have challenged me so far in terms of digital. And I think, I have, that is what has engaged me, and I kind of really want to kind of pursue this theme. And maybe because given how this day has panned out, I think it is a very useful opportunity to turn this into perhaps assessing the message, i.e. assessing the knowledge content that Andrew is going to take us through, and perhaps review whatever we are saying within that context, and see whether how valid that is in terms of today's need from our own experiences, and see how we can come up with different offerings, products and services, because I think that this is only the start of the journey, and it's great to have at least 5-6 people who believe that there is something here and that we can take this forward. So I think I really want to build on that.